the New York Times is actually exploring suing OpenAI over the use of its articles to train AI models like ChatGPT. This is according to some reporting from NPR. Basically, the Times is considering taking this action because ChatGPT competes with it by answering questions using the paper's original reporting. That's what the Times is concerned about. They are also concerned that if AI tools replace visiting the actual news sites, this could threaten the New York Times' business. They're also generally concerned, like many publications are, about how OpenAI systems get information by scraping the internet and potentially scraping copyrighted material in order to train models. Now, according to NPR, the Times and OpenAI have actually been discussing a licensing agreement to move forward where OpenAI can use some of the Times' content to train its models and provide answers through ChatGPT. But NPR seems to indicate this has gone so badly that the Times is now considering legal action. One other really interesting note here, NPR says that if OpenAI is found to have violated any copyrights in this process, federal law allows for the infringing articles to be destroyed at the end of the case. In other words, if a federal judge finds that OpenAI illegally copied the Times' articles to train its AI model, the court could actually order the company to destroy ChatGPT's data set, forcing the company to recreate it using only work that it is authorized to use. So first up, Paul, can you just put this into context for us? Why is this potential lawsuit, we should note it is potential according to people disclosing details to NPR, it has not happened yet. Why is this such a big deal?
I assume this is being leaked by someone on the Times side just to let OpenAI know they're very serious about these negotiations. It just seems to build on topic. It was either one or two episodes ago we talked about the New York Times, pulling out of the AI coalition, and that Google had licensing deal in place with the New York Times for 100 million was what it was rumored to be, and that this was the future of these language models, that these companies know that there is the chance that there are some lawsuits that could make it through and that they could be found that they did infringe on copyrights. And so it seems like the logical play is build the next version of these models on licensed materials, properly licensed materials. And so this just seems to verify that that is indeed what's happening. These language model companies are trying to find valuable sources that they can do licensing deals with, and the media companies are trying to, play hardball, but they're also viably concerned about the future, they're concerned about the future viability of their business model. Mm-hmm. So if like right now, GPT-4 isn't connected to the internet unless you're using Bing. But if I go in there and I can in real time ask questions about something that happened yesterday, and it's curating from sources including New York Times articles, and it writes me an amazing summary that is factual, that's the next step for these models, in 2 to 3 years, where the hallucinations are gone and they find ways to make these things as factual as, the best elements of the search engines. And what do I need to go to the Times for? That's a really valid issue. And so, I think these media companies are aware that their future well-being is threatened if these things get really, really good at doing real-time synopsis of what's going on. And so it just, it seems to validate that we're looking at future models that are much more responsible about licensing of the data that they train on. There's probably a massive race right now to do deals with all the top media companies and publishers. And the threat of, destroying the model, while not probably realistic, like I just don't see that as an outcome that would result from this. It's certainly an interesting leverage point because the OpenAI can't go into the model and just extract New York Times data. It's in there, it's embedded. They can't get it out. So we talked about this before, like you can't unlearn things. They don't know how to make the models unlearn what it's learned. So this is really more about, I think, the future versions of these foundation models and the data that they're trained on in a more legal and ethical way, probably.
So we're saying it's not going to be likely that OpenAI is going to be forced to destroy any type of data set here.
I think that seems very unlikely, but this is going to take years and probably end up in the Supreme Court. Not this case in particular, because again, it's just the threat of a lawsuit, but there are other related lawsuits that are moving forward. And I do think that we'll have some sort of landmark case that defines what these models are allowed to train on, what they're not allowed to train on. And I would guess that has to happen in the next, probably 2 years. Like this is a really critical topic, and these models are going to keep moving forward. And it seems like the language model companies' current play is just be proactive and license as much of the data as possible, and then pay the fines for whatever they were found to have done illegally in the first versions of this technology.
Gotcha. So the way forward seems to be licensing deals combined with kind of ask forgiveness for what's already been done.
Pay some fines and move on. Figure out how to get, let the artists benefit from it. That's the other, it's like, I don't know, class action lawsuit kind of thing but then how do you figure out whose work was used? And I don't know, this is, I've said many times, half jokingly, but not really, IP attorneys are like, it's the safest profession in the world for the next 10 years, because there's going to be so many messy things that have to get worked out around all of this stuff.